Hi, this is Ricky Keller, and I'm going to demo Milestone 4 of my game Overclock. This time I'm screencasting um, using QuickTime Player through my device, so it might be a little slow to start up here, but that's just because of the casting. But here we are, it didn't take too long. The first thing I added that wasn't in one of my features, and I just got some feedback about it, was that after tapping one of these buttons, it seems like you could tap another one and get to it, and that it didn't register the first time. Um, I what was really going on was just that it took a long time to load the game, and it was changing scenes during that time. So I put up a little loading screen here, as you can see, or a loading animation that lets you know that you've tapped the button. You can't tap any of the other ones. That was just to kind of help alleviate that issue right there. It also happens if you hit the back button, because sometimes traveling from the screen it takes a bit. Um, Making that time take less is something I'm going to work on too, but that's just an intermediary step into making this look and feel a little bit better and a little nicer and easier for the user. Still need to update the screen, but that wasn't a part of it yet. So you can see at the beginning here, I changed these things a lot, not really for the better, it would seem. It lacks a lot of perspective. So that's something still to work on, playing around with the tiles. Still, they are um, not not one big image anymore. They are tiles, so I can manipulate them and color them differently should I need to. Um, as you can see, there are loading bars now, or sorry, health bars, not loading bars, above each of the characters to let you know their state. Um, let's see what else. Move this guy down here. And I do not have, I guess it's hard to read that scrap number, but I do not have as much scrap um, at the start of any of these levels. And that was one of the bigger things I was going to try to get done this milestone, was to try to create this, not being able to build each one of these. You can see I'm tapping them on the bottom. I just don't have enough scrap. Another thing that's a little bit hard to see is that the scrap animates if you watch it. Every time a purchase is made, it animates down. And every time an enemy is killed, you get 40 pieces of scrap back. Um, Make that more clear, ideally in a future milestone. Um, but for right now, it gets the job done. I had planned for it to be a little more visible to since it's animating to try to call attention to it. Oops, here we go. Just gonna finish out this level real quick. But as I said before, the tiles themselves here, let me, I suppose, show that these take damage as well. So if they're next to an enemy, and the sound's not on right now, but I think that's partially due to how I'm casting, but that gunner now has, looks like 40% health, or less than 50 at least. So good. I think I'm just about done here. I can probably purchase another one of these. There we go. So that's still the same. Major three items were changing the pacing a little bit, not being able to build all these things right at the beginning, a bunch of units at the beginning, and just kind of wait and move them around. Kind of bring them out, or build them out piece by piece. Another thing was the tiles, which I'll display how those work. Basically, they're just run through a for loop and created so that I can color and shade them later to indicate which tiles are affected by the power converters, the loading bar, and I think that was it. I think I covered everything I need to. I'll get to the rest of it when we go through the code. Hi, so here we are looking at Unity, and first off, I wanted to let's just play this again in the animator, or sorry, the player. As you can see, the something I forgot to point out is that this grass behind here is tiled as well, and that each one of these pieces fit a little bit better into the spot since they're dynamically generated and tiles are placed at these positions. I can demo real quickly. Let's see. Well, I'll go over this first. So this is just the loading script that takes care of moving from the level select menu. This is what I had up first. So this just removes the objects from the screen. This sets the initial text, starts on a separate thread, loading the new scene. That way the UI is not blocked, and then allows this animation to happen here and update it. Just uses delta time to count down, and you can adjust the speed here, how quickly the dots form. Yeah, that's what that takes care of. Here we go. So the stage itself, if I were to put this here, this is the loop that creates the board and the positions before everyone, I say everyone, all the characters would slide into these positions and be locked there. This just places tiles there too. So if I were to, say, move these a little bit further apart, you could see here that they were spaced apart, not lined up correctly. So they are tiles. That'll benefit me in the future with displaying certain statuses and things on those tiles. So another thing here was that the grass is repeating tile, and this is where this is loaded. Let's go and demo. I have this same sort of thing for the heroes, but the enemy script, we can go over two things real quickly. First of all, the health bar is set here, and it sets the enemy itself as the parent, and that way it'll follow the parent around everywhere. And then this is the update, depending on its health, it kind of gets a percentage of that, and then scales the X value on that. Checks if it should be displayed red if it's less than 50% of the health, or yellow if it's less than 75. We can play around with those numbers to see how people feel about them, but those kind of felt good to me right now. And there's another thing I was going to display here, but I think I've forgotten what it was. Let me look real quickly. Create actual tiles, the pacing. So when an enemy dies, which let's search for it real quick. Scrap. So it takes damage and then it dies. Its health is less than 0. It just adds scrap to the scrap pile, and the scrap manager is responsible. Let me pull that up, I suppose. Is responsible for counting up by threes on fixed update. So you see that little animate is counting up or counting down depending on which direction the scrap is, the displayable scrap is from the actual scrap. Cool. And I also had some feedback about animations, a lot of big ones. I know I have a talk about that this week at some point. Working on those, also working on just getting some perspective for the background. I think this was a slight improvement to not have that picture of a junkyard in the back and this chessboard looking thing. That being said, it still needs a lot of work, and getting characters and things to animate, sprite animations in the next milestone is a goal of mine. I know this milestone was a little light. I think due to planning the rest of the milestones, it's time, but I have 2 weeks for the next milestone. So hopefully I should be able to get a lot of meat and potatoes in there and some flashy things, hopefully an animation or two at that time as well. Okay, so this is milestone 4, and thanks very much.